Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Revitalized Talk Show. And so we had taken a short break, an unscheduled break in our talk show series about Revitalize, but I'm excited to be back with our ninth episode. So we recorded already 8 episodes with our teachers, ambassadors, and as well doing a review of what Revitalize is all about. But since we took a break and we're back today, I'll give you a brief snippet about what Revitalize is about and what we are doing and some changes that we've made for our teachers as they prepare to join us in the beautiful destination of Jamaica. So, Revitalize is a salutary teachers appreciation retreat that was designed by Legrand Voyages, my company. And so, if you don't know already, my name is Crystal Legrand, and I am the owner and founder, CEO of Legrand Voyages. We are a destination management and marketing company. And for a very long time, we have been curating experiences for our clients, retreats, and events and conferences that are geared towards helping individuals either receive training programs or retreats for rejuvenation, and as well as mental health and wellness retreats. But what we found is that there aren't many opportunities in this sector, so in our industry, that is geared towards incentivizing teachers or even first responders. So when it comes to travel experiences, so we thought this might be an interesting opportunity for us to create a travel incentive program that is dedicated specifically to teachers and what they need to be revitalized to continue to work at the forefront for our youth and continue to maintain the excellence that they have been doing for years and years, and then impacting and for all the impact then that they make on our youth. We started our promotions back in March and April, in fact, as we brought on some amazing ambassadors from across the globe to collaborate with us in our first phase to help us identify teachers in their countries. And we're proud to say now that we have over 15 ambassadors from different countries in the US, Canada, the Caribbean, South America, and Africa. So we have a huge roster of teachers that are going to be experiencing our first retreat for teachers. This retreat has been rescheduled for October the 1st to the 8th, and teachers will be joining us so that they can receive an all expense paid trip to the island of Jamaica, and we will be showing them an amazing time once they get to the destination. We'll be doing several activities, several workshops, specifically on how to maintain your health and wellness personally so that you can show up in your classrooms strong, empowered, and able to execute your work or continue executing your work with excellence for the youth that are entrusted to you in your classrooms. Throughout this series and throughout our campaign, we will be inviting community members of each of our teachers and as well as our global community to support the nominated teachers by donating, and we will share more details about how to support this initiative later on in the show. But the spotlight is definitely not on me, and I don't want to take any credit for the amazing work that these teachers have been doing. So we want to emphasize and highlight one specific teacher tonight on our show, and that is none other than Etuhole Amputu. And I'm sure that I may have mispronounced her name, but nevertheless, she will be here with me so that she can also tell you more about herself and what she does. Hello, teacher, and welcome to the show. Thank you so much for joining me. So I would love for you to, first of all, tell us who you are and where you're from, and how you got involved in this process.
I am Miss Etuhole Amputu. I am from Namibia, on Sati region. I teach in Oshikuku at Oshikuku Mission Private School, and I came about this platform. I was nominated by Cecilia Kamati. From within the community of Oshikuku, and from there, I literally have been talking to you, Crystal. So.
Yes. So, as and I'm going to get your name right by the end of this show, I promise. So that by the time we get to Jamaica, I have mastered your name. So, Et Etuhole.
Etuhole.
Holy. Okay. All right. So I'm gonna stick to Etu for now. And then I'll practice after. So teacher Etu, tell us about, how you first started off as a teacher. Tell us a little bit about what inspired you to become a teacher, and then a little bit about your journey as a teacher for the past X amount of years.
Okay, for me, teaching was not initially on my mind at all. It didn't cross my mind, not even once, to be quite honest. I've always loved children. Children have always been naturally attracted to me. I don't know whether it's my aura that I give off or not, but I initially had actually started with a BA honors in industrial psychology, and then I ventured into different how do I say? I ventured into different platforms and different job opportunities because the one thing that we struggle with in Namibia at the moment is youth unemployment. So despite your qualification, jobs are just really scarce. So I've been in the field of medicine, I've been in the field of entertainment, I've been in the field of marketing and sales, I've been in construction, and then I landed in teaching by through the proficiency of English. So I am a English teacher.
That is amazing. And it's interesting how our lives take us through these journeys before we identify and find our real purpose. So I can appreciate that, because anyone who knows me before, the travel business and everything else, I come from a designer background with stage plays and acting and everything else. So I'm more a media fashion type person than I am a travel person. But travel really did become the thing that I pursued after. And that's really interesting to me, how our journeys take us on these winding roads before we land where we want or need to be. And so now that you've landed as, becoming an educator, as an English teacher, how many years have you served in this space?
I was prior doing tutoring, private tutoring, for me to then get into the private institution because I teach at a private school. Hence, it wasn't really the avenue that I had entered into. So going into the private sector tutoring led me to then enjoy the company of children and actually watching the growth that I instill in a child themselves. And the relationship, the bond that comes with it, it's unimaginable. A love of a child is something that you can, whether it's your own, just the love of a child changes your day completely. And I get to school and I have more than 10 kids running to me, literally wanting to carry my bag or carry my books, and it's just, yeah. And then I fell in love with it.
Absolutely. So I can definitely see that. And I don't personally have kids, but I have been around young people and youth programs and everything else for such a long time. And I have such a huge appreciation for how much impact you can have on a young person, and how that just a hug or a high five or a handshake or every little gesture that a young person reciprocates to you is something that stays with you for years and years to come. So I appreciate and understand that portion of kind of connecting with young people on a real level and just forming this bond that you sometimes can't even get away from. So I often say that once you're a teacher and once you've been bitten by the teaching bug, you can never not be a teacher. You're always in that space of, correcting kids and helping them to grow, helping them to, be more respectful or whatever it is. You're always in that instruction kind of life and thought process, right?
And it literally seeps into your everyday life. You find yourself literally correcting an adult, being like, no,
Correct.
that's not pronunciation, but it comes from the kids. And now even some of my kids, I find them correcting elders where you don't say it like that.
Absolutely. Yes, because they're mimicking what they learned from you. And so that's just beautiful. And I really appreciate the teaching profession. And so while there are some amazing things that happen in your career as a teacher, we also understand that there are things that aren't so great and some things that can be improved and some things that can have better resources. And what I love to do here on this talk show is give people insights on how things are in different sectors and different countries. So we've had teachers on here from the US, from the Caribbean, and as well as some teachers from Namibia. And what's unique about your school or where you teach at? This school is a private school. So tell us a bit about, some challenges or things that you would want to see improved in the education system, even within your school or even within your region in itself.
Okay, one of the challenges within our Namibian education system, I think that we've had a high rate of dropouts within the years, especially on secondary level, due to high rates of pregnancy. And then also during the COVID period, we had the struggle of shifting from face-to-face teaching to then the online, especially on tertiary level. So those have been some of the challenges that are common within most institutions cross-board because in Namibia we have a 4-stage structure from pre-primary and then primary, which is 1 to 7, and then secondary, which is 8 to 12, and then tertiary. So it's the 4 stages, but thus far, the reforms that have been made, which we can applaud our education system on. I know that we're supposed to focus only on challenges, but I've listed them and shed a few lights on the great things that our education system is doing, such as since 2016, if I'm not mistaken, I stand to be corrected, we've been offering on the government level free education from primary to secondary because they legally school a child has the right to education from the age of 6 to 16. So that's the great thing that we've accomplished. But in private sector, I feel that we could still use a little bit more funding within the government parastatal. Or from the government parastatal, even though we are private, because at the end of the day, it is an individual who's trying to grow the community and also educate the members and the children within that specific community, such as ours in Oshikuku. It's one of the only 3 private schools that are there. And obviously the standards of education is completely different. Private, you expect higher standard of learning and access to resources and material. But when it's coming from one individual or maybe a board of members, which is like 5 people, how much money can we truly take to put into an institution to make it great? So I think with private sectors, I think they can still use a little bit. We're not asking for much, but just maybe slight investment from the government, or more participation from parents within in regards to maybe the school development funds, making sure that those are actually paid on time, so that we can then actually realistically provide the visions or provisions that we've always wanted to from a private institution to make the learning experience as fulfilling as possible.
Yeah. And I can fully agree with all of that. So, absolutely, we started off talking about the challenges, but there's balance in every conversation where everything is not all bad. So, absolutely, there is room for improvement. I believe that every education system has room for improvement. Even in well developed countries, we've seen lots of opportunity for more contributions from the community, and this is actually some of the backbone of what we are doing here with Revitalize. So, one of the things that we incorporated into our planning is making this a community funded program. Whereas, as you said just now, is that most of the time people tend to say, well, the government has to do it, or these specific people that started this program have to do it. But if we collectively pool our resources, most of the time we can get so much more done if we were to pool resources from different sources. And so I appreciate you saying that, because we're very much through our company an advocate for, sharing more responsibility in some ways for building our culture around how do we treat teachers and how do we honor teachers, and then how do we then take that honor and translate it into tangible resources and support for these teachers. So I really appreciate you saying, there's balance in everything. Yes, we can see the things that need to improve. Yes, we can see the plights and everything else. But we also would love to see more contribution collectively. And so even thinking about, okay, the school system is one thing. So we have our, great incentive from being able to contribute to the youth. We have amazing opportunity to raise the next generation and everything else. What the next thing I feel that is missing in some ways in the conversation is you as the teacher. So yes, you are responsible for this young person. Yes, the education system is what it is, depending on where you're at, what type of system you're in, and everything else. But there's almost zero conversation around this is a human being who is now entrusted with the lives of 20 to 30 young people who needs to be able to show up in that space in perfect health and wellness to be able to raise this young person. And so, as you know, our program really focuses on mental health and wellness. And we're a strong advocate, of course, for travel, because we feel like disconnecting someone from their normal environment and bringing them into a vacation space allows them the time to rest, allows them the time to focus on the areas of their lives that they do need to work on, and then start doing the work. One of the things that I would love to hear from you is, what are some of your thoughts around the state of mental health and wellness of teachers? Because I know that in our community, like in the Caribbean, we hardly ever talk about mental health, especially. It's such a taboo conversation because if a teacher has a mental health issue, you feel like, okay, I can no longer trust this teacher, period. And that might not be the case. So how is it in Namibia, or just even from in your perspective, or from your perspective, what is the status, or how do persons cope then or deal with mental health and wellness issues when it comes to the education industry?
What I've noticed is, firstly, like I can say, I can only speak for myself. I can't speak on behalf of others. But being somebody that has gone through my own mental illness journey, suffering from, having suffered previously from depression. It's something that I can definitely speak on because within our community, especially within the northern region where I am based, mental wellness isn't a topic that is discussed as a norm or even a conversation, a table conversation. So first, what we need to do is address that it is an illness and bring awareness to the fact that just because it doesn't have physical symptoms that you can see from a distance does not mean that a person is not going through the most, if we can term it like that. And I've realized that within where I am, the northern region especially, I think to a certain extent it's almost seen as not necessarily a taboo, but like, oh, Black people don't go through that type of thing,
Yeah, we
it's
don't experience that at all. Of course not. We're strong.
you know having friends that I've recently seen actually suffering from the result of unattended mental illness, which leads to basically suicide and many other things, slitting of the wrist, self-harming. It's something that definitely needs to be more openly spoken about. So thank you for actually asking me that question. I'm so glad that I can be on this platform and shed light to it.
Yeah.
It's not only it's not only for certain people. I think most people can't even identify that they are depressed. So, for instance, you have to be able to know that always feeling like you are exhausted or you just don't have the will to even just get up that day. That those are the symptoms. It's not that you're just physically exhausted. It's that you can be emotionally and mentally exhausted. Those are different things. It's just because I'm smiling every day doesn't mean that I'm necessarily happy, because the ones that are forever smiling, the ones with the biggest smiles, are shielding the biggest pain.
Yeah.
So I would, within the education system, I think that they should implement maybe like checking in on their teachers at least, if not twice, maybe every once a month or every 2 months, but just to check in, have events or incentives put in place for teachers to be able to actually, if they do need a day off, because now with the whole leave days being monetized, you're looking at, okay, if I take a day off, I'm losing that money when I need to retire. Is it gonna be worth it for me just because today I'm not coping? But that not coping impacts a student, because the students feed off of our energy. If we are not happy, if we are not energetic, if we are exhausted, it affects our students, because these, like with me, I'm on primary level, and these are little human beings that are expecting me to come every single day with a huge smile on my face, willing to give them hugs every single day, give
Right.
each individual the individual attention that they deserve and require, to be attentive to every single one. I always say, I make a joke with my colleagues that we basically babysitters from 8 a.m. to about 2, 3, 4 p.m.
Yeah. Yeah.
we do
Absolutely.
it, but basically we are babysitting. If it's basically when you're at home and your child comes and it's like, mommy, can I have this pencil? Can I eat this sweet? It's the
Right.
same thing in a classroom, just having to be in a more controlled structure. So you have the energetic ones which you have to calm down, and then you have the quiet ones which you have to talk up and liven up, and then you have the ones that don't really feel like they fit anywhere, which you have to then draw in and make them feel like they are in a safe space. So it's a lot,
Yeah.
and it's really draining, because if you think of all this, imagine taking in all those little different personalities and energies, and you are literally absorbing them on a daily basis, plus your
Absolutely.
normal life, issues, plus your family home structure, plus your colleagues, because it's work. It's not like everybody necessarily always gets along. So you're dealing with so many things from so many different angles that at the end of the day, it can become a little bit draining and it can become a little bit too much. Plus the marking and the scheduling and the class structure in
Planning.
regards class, your planning, your lesson planning, all of that happens within one day as a teacher.
Absolutely. And so you
So,
touched on something that I would definitely like to kind of hone in on. And, we talk about, this being the environment that you're thrown into as a teacher. And I've kind of thought of a lot about how do we or what do we advocate for on behalf of teachers? If we were to advocate for something, what would it be? And so, yes, we have our program and everything else with the retreat, which is fine. But what can we advocate for that is at any time you can access it? And one thing that you just mentioned was, having that wellness day. If I can be able to call in and say, look, today is really extremely not a day that I can show up in the best way for my students. I would definitely need not a sick day, but you just need a wellness day. You need a day to be able to regroup, refresh yourself, and be able to make sure that you are able to come back with all your high energy and everything else. And I'm pretty sure that I've never heard of a teacher, if either that they're sick or maybe a family member is sick or a emergency happened and that's the only reason, or a conference is the only reason that they didn't come into the classroom. But for most of the rest of the year, they're always showing up day by day and year after year. And it might be something for us to explore, or something for the persons who are listening to this talk show to think about how can we advocate for teachers to have these opportunities while also not negatively impacting the students. So of course there's continuity in school. You need to be able to make sure that the lesson plans are continuing and everything else. In the Caribbean, I know that they're implementing in most of the classes that or the schools that I know of, there is a teacher's assistant that is assigned to most of the classes. So most classes now have a teacher plus an aide. So you're not just by yourself. So if something does happen, your aide or your teacher's assistant can kind of fill in on that space. But I know that that's not the case for all schools. And so are there any other solutions or maybe things that you practice when you're dealing with, whether it's mental, and it doesn't have to be detrimental where you're totally broken down, but you're having a moment where you need a break and you need to pause or you need to spend some time alone, whatever it is. How do you cope with the dynamics of the environment that you're in, where you have, as you mentioned, different personalities in one classroom, different personal issues that we all deal with, and of course, kind of maintaining your energy to be present for these lively young kids that you teach? What do you do to de-stress and to be able to continue being as present as possible?
one of my little secret tricks is compartmentalizing. So I like to basically be able to remove myself mentally, especially if I see
Mm.
that becoming very drained. I remove myself mentally from the aspect of being a teacher, and then I remind myself that I'm still just I'm a human being. I'm a woman, and then I try and do the things that I love doing in my own personal space without the responsibilities of a lot of minions around me. So my therapy one is definitely music.
Yes. Good.
Music. I put a karaoke there machine in front of me, and I'm singing my lungs out. And then another thing is I literally retreat like a turtle into my shell. I like being in my own space and just taking time to just soak in and reflect and just pour out everything that needs to come out, pour it out in whatever I'm doing, be it focusing on another task that doesn't really require that much mental capacity or input, and then doing what I love, my cooking and my music. I'm cooking and I'm literally dancing at the same time. But then again, also my kids make me happy. I wake up and I'm waking up and I'm waking up in a bad mood. One of the things that really, really uplifts me is the love of the kids. Just when I get out of my transport and they just run to me, that just that energy of love and affection also refuels me. So I think it's dependent on every individual, but I would say do what you love. Do what you love that doesn't feel like as if it's a task.
Right. Absolutely. So I
So yeah,
love,
do what you
yeah.
love that doesn't feel like it's a task.
So repeat that last piece for us. So do what you love, and what else?
Do what you love and make sure that it doesn't feel like a duty or a task. Like it just
Right.
needs to be you doing, whether it's dancing in your pajamas and with loud music in your room, or going to have dinner with your husband or by yourself, dependent on what your status is. Just do what you love, as long as it doesn't feel like a task or a duty. It mustn't feel like it's something that you have to do, but rather something that you really, really want to do. I feel like that
Yeah.
helps.
I love that. And, our cultural heritage is pretty similar. So music is definitely a go-to from our Caribbean side of things. Definitely love music. And, for me, one of the key things for me as well is the ocean. I'm very much connected to water. So if there's water anywhere, river, whatever it is, just needs to be a body of water. And I'm pretty much replenished from that. But absolutely, I agree. We should do what we love, do what is, natural to you, and it shouldn't feel like a burden. So absolutely, it does. If journaling is not your thing, then don't journal. Don't do things that isn't necessarily bringing you joy. If this is your wellness moment, find that moment to separate from everything around you. As you said, if you need to go into, the turtle and kind of separate yourself from everything else, do that and find and be very intentional around it and without apology. Because I find that lots of times what we tend to find then is you need the break, you want the break, but you feel guilty for taking a break.
Yes.
Right? So we know
Yes.
we need it. We know we need to separate ourselves. We know we need to turn off our phones, turn off social media, stop answering, stop grading papers, whatever it is that is distracting you from spending some time with yourself. We need to be more intentional about not allowing that to hinder us from taking care of the human behind the teacher. And so, we're working our way through the system, right? So we talked about, the education system in general in terms of what Namibia has going on, pros and cons. We're embracing all of that. We know that we need a community approach to education where it's not just the responsibility of one individual or one entity or the government or anything else. Collectively, we can make the resources available, and collectively, we can make sure that our children are raised in the right way, both when it comes to culture and norms and respect and honor, but also in the education system. Then we lead it down to talking about you and, getting some insights into your dance moves. I'm looking forward to definitely seeing some of those dance moves in Jamaica when we are on retreat. Yes. But let's talk about the young people. So the people that we are all prepared to serve, as you're raising these next generations of leaders, of innovators, entrepreneurs, nurses, doctors. You never know what comes out of your generations of young people that you educate. So in the classroom, what I have been thinking about lately is how can we equip you to cope with these different characters and different energies and everything else. But young people also show up in this space needing mental health and wellness. And how can we create opportunities for young people to either, whether it's meditate or take a break or pause, whatever that mechanism is? I would love to hear your thoughts around if you've already done it in your classroom. So, do you do dance sessions in your classroom to get everybody kind of together and, take a break for a moment? Or do you have moments where you're asking everybody to be silent just so you can calibrate in some ways the environment around the young people in the classroom? So we just lost teacher Amputu for a moment. I know she may be having some connectivity issues, but in the meantime, as we're waiting for her to come back, let's talk about it and let's think about, what are some opportunities or practices, or if you know of any practices that can be done in a classroom setting for our young people to also have moments when they can focus on their mental health and wellness. What are some of those practices that we can do? We'll love to hear your thoughts about that in the comments. So drop a comment in this if you have some thoughts or you know of any practices that are being done already in the space of mental health and wellness within the classroom setting. So we have teacher Input back with us. So I'm going to bring her back on. Hello, welcome back.
Thank you.
So yes, we were just talking about, how do you maintain an environment of wellness and as well as, making it just an environment where young people can feel open to learning. So, when you're dealing with all the different characters, whatever it is you're dealing with at the moment, if they're rowdy, what is your approach to building a calm environment? It doesn't necessarily have to be calm because if you're dancing, you're not calm, but a very inviting then environment or warm and welcoming environment within your classroom.
The one thing that I love about Oshikuku Mission Private School in Oshikuku, my colleagues and I, we all have very different personalities, and we deal with the students each individually as we are. So I know one of my colleagues, she does the whole dancing and singing. Another does the whole musical chairs. Another does the whole eye-hand coordination games with their students. But what I do is I have my, every single time I step into my class, I have my positive affirmation because it's something that I personally do myself. So all my students know, if you come to Oshikuku Mission Private School, you will know that they know. I literally always say, "You are my," and they will respond, "champions," and we do not fail. So I tell them every single day that they are champions and that they are destined for greatness and that we do not fail. I literally drill it into their heads every single day. I don't deal with failures because you
Right.
are my little champions. So even on my exam scopes and exam scripts, like at the footnote, I will put there little champions so that they remember that they are little champions, whether they are under the pressure of writing exams or whether they are under the pressure of having to study. The moment that they reach the bottom of the page, they're reminded, like, I'm a little champion. So I do positive affirmations with my students.
Oh, absolutely. I love that idea. I'm an affirmations type of person as well. I love affirmations. It gets me going, and it also allows me to build a um, I want to say my spirit, but it builds my spirit to the point that I can receive. Like, so it puts me in a position of receiving. I'm in the right headspace. I'm motivated, and I think once you have that motivation and the inspiration, then you can learn and you can be able to grasp the information in a much different way. And so I appreciate how you kind of build these wellness, health and wellness practices even within your classroom, which is something that I believe is crucial. So, and if we think about all these aspects, so from the community to helping our teachers and then building these environments for our young people to learn, I think that then becomes the solid foundation upon which we can raise amazing young people without having issues such as burnout, the great recession that we had, not recession, the great exodus rather. So there were post-pandemic, there were several reports of, teachers leaving the profession. We had several reports of burnout and stress, especially after the pandemic, with all of the what the pandemic brought to this system. And so I believe once we start chipping away at, you know, one, dealing with the classroom setting, then starting to deal with the teachers, then leading up to the community, and collectively, if we all put in our hats to thinking about the education system and doing something about it, then we can actually turn out to having an amazing or more amazing reports about education, because we tend to find that there are lots of negative approach and lots of negative conversation around the education system, things that are missing and all these other negative reports. So if we can contribute in any way to turning the tides of the conversation and making more positive impacts on education as a whole, I think that will be such a rewarding experience for us. Are there any other things that we may not have mentioned, but things that you've thought about that would be interesting to explore or interesting to implement within the education system, whether it's in your school or outside of your school, just in general? Are there other things that we as a community should be paying attention to?
As a community, I was gonna dive straight in as from the from the system itself.
Oh well, if you have a great suggestion for the system, that's fine as well.
I think so it would uh, possibly fall under educational reform. Please excuse me.
That's fine.
Under the educational reform system, where I think that we should start looking into what do you call it? An avenue of education, not just centralized, but go dive
Decentralized.
to basically individual avenues of educational systems where we can have the centralized system that we currently have now as our basis of foundation, schooling foundation. But if we need, like, if you can see that a child, because most students have different strengths, right? But we focus on educating a child on a general on a general level, where you have to do everything from maths, English, those are your core subjects, maths, English, science, those are your cores, and it's compulsory. But a child, some children, you can see that they're gifted in IT, or they're gifted musically, or they're gifted artistically. And if we could groom children within their strengths, and then the other subjects come as additional subjects, that way we don't necessarily have a lot of not necessarily failures, because we are now failing students according to a system that has been prehistorically set to, like, how do I say, I'm losing my words now.
The curriculums are outdated. I can fully agree with that. And yeah,
Basically, we're basically pushing children into one little passage of, if you can't fit within this box, like, you are not destined for greatness. There's no room for you in the world. When, to be honest, the world out here is completely different. What you've been learning from grade 1 to 0 all the way to tertiary is not necessarily things that you're actually going to apply within your field of expertise at the end of the day. So if we maybe have an education system where we can focus on students' strengths, if we can see, like, we can maybe have some tests, like the same way that we have emotional intelligence and IQ and the IELTS, if we can come and if we can do that on an earlier stage, where we can see that, okay, from grade 5, maybe this child is just really suited within the science field or maths field, and then we groom them with a curriculum that's going to advance those skills, and then we can't say perfect, but basically teach them what they need and give them the tools that they need, that when they get to tertiary and they want to do science, whatever science field they want to enter into, they're already well-roundedly equipped to do it. Instead of, I focused on history as a subject that I had no interest in, and I had art and I had PE that I literally got 0 in, because I'm not an active person and have always been interested in things, for instance, specifically just agriculture. You understand? We don't have avenues of education where we can groom them from a young age, from primary all the way up to tertiary, where when they get to tertiary, they are more than well equipped to be able to pass those 3-year degrees or diplomas with expertise that they would not have had prior, without having been groomed. Because you can teach a child that is, I always tell people that a child is the most fascinating thing that you can come across, because it's an absolute blank mind that just mimics whatever you feed.
right.
So I don't even believe that there's a child that can't learn something. Their learning might be different according to another. One can catch on faster, one is slower than another. But to grasp whatever you teach, how you teaching, can definitely be soaked in, because that's all they've been doing. We didn't come out of the womb knowing that, oh, so in order to learn, we need to be able to read and we need to be able to talk. Because from the moment that, if you look at the concept of just a baby learning how to walk, it's the imitation of seeing the elders on 2 legs walking. So now I want to do that. So how do I? They start crawling to then holding on to something. So the learning ability within a child is there from birth. It's how we then tap into that. And also applying emotional intelligence, not only looking at it, because what I noticed this side is some kids are special needs, not necessarily special needs to that extent where they need to go to a special needs school, but maybe that they just require a little bit more attention from you individually as a teacher within the classroom, that can make a huge difference. So we need to move away from that historic narrative of this is how education is, and this is the structure of from 3 to tertiary, and like explore actually we can actually groom and tap into the talent, the more talent that's there from birth, and see whether we can groom that. and find a system where we can implement that,
Yeah.
where they can't be seen as unqualified at the end.
Absolutely. And through this program, and I'm smiling as I'm listening to you speak passionately about this because one of our teachers from the Bahamas, Dr. Deborah Campbell, she has created a school. So it's a private school that tailors the education of each of our students. So and I can you persons can definitely go back and listen to the interview that we did earlier with Dr. Campbell, and she talks about this same exact issue, that strengths of a student is not necessarily analyzed in a way that, as you mentioned, that they analyze emotional intelligence. So educational intelligence in terms of, do you have a proclivity to mathematics, or do you have it to science, or do you naturally learn art better or music better? So each of us have a natural proclivity to specific topics, and those are the things that we should be mastering in our classroom setting. So that's a huge shout out to Dr. Campbell. I know she's doing work and building curriculums like this, and I'm looking forward to having you and her then having a conversation around this topic. Because one thing that I have found is, and even in building this project, is that there are best practices or opportunities to learn about how things are done in different regions, that teachers can also learn from each other on how they can improve their system within their own classroom setting or even within their schools. So I'm really looking forward to the conversations that you will have as a collective of teachers kind of coming on this retreat. Yes, most of the time we will be focusing on mental health, wellness, and of course, just having a blast in the destination. But we will also have a few workshops around coping within the classroom and additional resources and practices that we can do to improve the education inside of your classrooms, and things that you can adapt very easily while staying within, the guidelines of your individual schools and in respect to what they would want you to deliver. But there are things that we can do to serve our young people even more effectively. And I agree with you strongly that one of them is improving upon how we handle the curriculums that students are being measured by. Because, you know, in a lot of cases, you see students that may be failing. It's not necessarily because they're not good at a particular subject. One, it could be because of how the subject is being taught. And secondly, it could be around whether or not that is a subject that they need to be taking in the first place. So, we in the Caribbean region, we have something called CXC, and you're mandated to pass X amount of subjects to be able to pass in your school. And sometimes the subjects that you get, you have to pick between, science packages or business packages, and that might not necessarily be where you're at in your, journey of education or what you are good at. And so I agree that there's lots of conversation to be had around curriculums, and making it something that you mentioned earlier as well, is making it relevant to what we have right now. So technology, AI, cryptocurrencies, finance things, climate action initiatives, all of these aren't things that we discuss in the classroom, and we definitely don't discuss it in the very earlier years, where our young people, as you said earlier, are more like sponges in those early days, because they are, as you said, a blank canvas. So they are more open and reciprocal to education at a very early age. I think we underestimate, in fact, how much a young person can learn in their early years as opposed to what we can learn now as we become older. um, you're much more open to education in your early days, and the more that we can put into that in those early days will be beneficial for our young people. So I'm definitely not necessarily in the system when it comes to education and changing curriculums, but I can definitely champion the conversation around having that becoming more and more part of the discussion, that
I just
people pay attention to. You
wanted
said?
to add,
Yeah.
just we hone in on that. It's not necessarily to change the curriculum, but to amend it where we can implement. Just I failed to mention that the ideology comes from focalized education systems, where basically what they do is within the English proficiency, you start with the read. First speaking, reading, and then enunciation, pronunciation. So where you fail or what you slack in, then they shift you back to that and focus on that. So basically taking that ideology and then applying it to the general subjects. So if you can see like the curriculum itself, not just the subject. So if you can see that in maths, that's not really the student's strong suit, but the subjects that they are mostly well suited in, what career path in the future does it lead to, or would it best be suited to go and study according to the subjects that they have more higher marks in, or that they're stronger suited in, or actually just enjoy? Because at the end of the day, we know that when it comes to actual real life, when we go to work, are we doing something that we enjoy?
Sure.
So
Absolutely.
that's what I wanted to comment on. I don't want to change the curriculum,
Absolutely.
but
Yeah. Yes.
as a foundation, like basically let those be foundation subjects, and
Yeah.
then focalize that curriculum of that specific child according to their strengths, making sure that their weaknesses are not neglected, that they still have the weakest subjects as they made not majors. You understand, from majors to minors. So the weaker subjects can be minors, so that they can still be groomed and educated in them and knowledgeable in them by the time that they complete their studies, but focus on grooming their strengths more as well, to give them a
Absolutely.
when it comes to job selections and employment opportunities. Because at the end of the day, people are looking for experience when you've graduated. I've been studying for 5 years or 3 years, and then I graduate, I have zero experience,
Right.
but I'm applying for a job that's asking for 3 to 5 years experience.
Yeah.
We need to move that gap, because one of the things in Namibia is a high rate of youth unemployment. And it's
Right.
not unemployment because people are not educated. They are educated. There's just no job opportunities, and they don't have the experience that they were supposed to have by the time that they have now graduated. So we
Right.
need to look into that. And I think focalized education, in regards to using that ideology and implementing it in curriculum setting, can make a huge difference.
Yes, absolutely. I think there's lots of synergy, absolutely, as you said. So it's not, and I do appreciate that. It's not necessarily to change, but it's more so on how it is communicated to the student. I agree fully with that. And I think that, we've touched on several amazing things that we can do and advocate for through our programs, through, as I said, community members. I think I personally think as a bottom up approach to most things. I believe as a community, we have the power to change systems. We have the power to advocate for the things that we believe in. And so I'm hopeful that just the inspiration catches on, that persons, as they hear you speak, they hear your passion around education and the things that we can do to impact our youth. We have these not necessarily tough conversations, but we have more conversations then around how can we reform education, how can we reform classroom settings, how can we reform honoring teachers and making education a priority again for our generations to come, because education is still the bedrock upon which everything is built. If you don't have education, then there is no doctors, there aren't any entrepreneurs. It's still springboards from this place of education. So I definitely believe that education needs to be a priority, and it will be part of our continued effort to make sure that education and the thoughts around supporting teachers, building better systems, and everything else continues to be a part of what we advocate for here as a company. And as you know, we are still raising funds and pulling our support community wise and calling on our community members to support the initiatives of Revitalized. We are gathering over 24 teachers. And as I mentioned, we have over 15 ambassadors that are doing the work behind the scenes to have our teachers join us in our first annual retreat, which will be hosted in Jamaica from the 1st to the 8th of October. We are excited and looking forward to having all the teachers with us. We will be having these dialogues similar to what we're having here on the talk show, but we'll have dialogues with teachers so that there is this cross-border conversation around how do we improve our education systems and how can we better serve our teachers and our youth. And so below the screen here, you will see a link to make a donation today to support the efforts of Revitalized. The link is bit.ly/revitalized donations, and you can find that on all our social media pages. So whether you're on our Facebook page, TikTok, Instagram, follow our pages as well to keep track of us and hear more about what we are doing. Our handle for social media is Revitalized Star, and so Star stands for Salutary Teachers Appreciation Retreat, as we are advocates for travel, and we are looking forward to awarding, as I mentioned, over 24 teachers with an all expense paid getaway to the beautiful destination of Jamaica. While we are on the retreat, we will be including excursions and historical trips and cultural trips, but as well as having conversations with our teachers mainly focused on health and wellness, but also having cross-border dialogues in terms of improving education. And so I am thankful that we were able to have this wonderful conversation today with our teacher Amputu. She did get disconnected here at the end. And so if she does pop back in, I would invite her to say hello. But if not, we thank you so much for joining us. This hearty conversation has been an amazing, amazing conversation around your thoughts on education. I believe you've dropped several nuggets on ways that we can support you and other teachers from Namibia. And we're hopeful that our community rallies behind you and makes this possible and future initiatives possible by, again, contributing their donations. So a pleasant welcome back to everyone. We are changing a few things. So I mentioned in the opening of this show that we are making a few changes. So initially, we ambitiously thought that we would be able to do daily interviews with our teachers, because at the time we were working on a tighter schedule. Now that we have updated our travel dates, we are then going to shift to weekly interviews with our teachers, ambassadors, partners, and everyone else. These interviews will be hosted every Wednesday at 7 p.m. on Central European Standard Time, and that's the same time in Namibia. It's different time zones, of course. If you're tuning in from the Caribbean, it's 1 p.m. in the afternoon for you. And if you're in the US, for some states, of course, it's 1 p.m. as well. So check the time. So it's 1 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. European time, and make any adjustments for your time zone so that you could join us here live. We welcome you to drop comments around anything that we discussed today. We would love to hear from you. If you would like to connect with us one-on-one, I am available to meet with you to discuss more about the Revitalized initiative. Reach out to us and check out our website. You can find much more details about Revitalize in general on our website. And I will drop the link to our website below so that you can take a look at that as well. And so our website is pretty simple. It is revitalizestar.com. So here we go. Let's see. So there you have it. So our website is below. So we invite you to learn more about our initiative here at the website below. And you can find details about who we are, why we started this initiative, and what we intend to do moving forward for years to come. And so the last thing I would like to talk about is the fact that we've been having several persons reaching out wanting to nominate additional teachers for this experience. So for our 2023 retreat is closed for nominations. So we won't be inviting any more teachers for this retreat, as the travel dates, as you already know, is in October. So we're only about 3 months away from the time that we will be traveling. So we won't be taking any teachers for this trip. But we are making preparations for 2024. So our final announcement is that our 2024 nominations are open, and you can go to revitalizestar.com and click on the teachers link, and at the teachers on the top, and you will see a drop-down menu that says nominate a teacher. So in fact, stand corrected. When you go to the website, go to get involved. Sorry. So revitalizestar.com/get involved. And there you will find a link that says nominate a teacher, and you can do so. At the bottom of that page, you will be able to nominate a teacher. You can read about our criteria for nominations. Once you submit a teacher for nominations, we will review the application and get back to you on whether or not the individual that you've nominated meets our criteria, and we'll share with you what are anticipated next steps for 2024. Once we have the date scheduled for 2024, we will be announcing those as well. But in the meantime, you can go ahead and nominate a teacher in your community to join us on the retreat for 2024. So for those who have been asking us about nominations, about getting their teacher on a retreat, this is what you need to do next. And so before we close out, I see that we do have Teacher Amputu with us. So Etu, welcome back to the show. And if you can share then with us your closing remarks, because we were wrapping up then the show. I know you got disconnected for a few minutes there. So any last words for our audience?
My sincere apologies, currently having network issues here, but I'm back. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you to Ms. Cecilia Kamati for nominating me. I appreciate it so much. And this was such a pleasant experience. First live talk show for me.
Yeah.
So that's it off of our little checklist. Hopefully I get to do some more, and thank you so much for having me, Ms. Crystal, and for actually starting up this beautiful initiative. I really love it, and I think it will make a huge difference in many teachers' lives. So thank you to you. Thank you to the team that stands behind you. And I can't wait to see you guys in Jamaica.
Absolutely. So before we let you go, tell me the one thing that you're most excited about experiencing on this retreat. What is the thing that you're like, yes, we need to do this?
To be honest, just the whole experience on its own, I've dreamt of coming to Jamaica for some time. People who know me know that I'm definitely have been wanting to come to Jamaica. But I think what I'm most excited to experience is the culture, um, the bridging of cultures from Africa to African descent. I'm very excited about that. I've already had fresh coconut, so I know most people are only like, "Oh, the fresh coconut." I've already had that, so I think just the people and the culture and the experience on its own, the water, the island.
Yeah,
What?
yeah. And of course, the music. So I'm sure that you will have an amazing time enjoying the music as well. Culturally, as you said, we are African descent. So there is some similarities and even diversity within that space. So I would love to show you and the other teachers the amazing culture. I love the Jamaican culture. It's a rich, vibrant culture that is actually really founded on music and everything else and food. And so it's very similar to the African culture. And so I'm excited for you. I'm really, really thankful to Mr. Celia Kamati for introducing us to you. And as I mentioned, we do this through nomination. So persons can nominate teachers that they would love to see receive an incentive for the amazing work and contributions that they make to the education systems in their community. And because of your labor of love and your work, you are more than deserving of this incentive. And so we are excited to be able to shower you and as well as all the teachers on this trip with this amazing experience. We will be sharing more details on our specific itinerary and everything else that will be included in the package in future episodes of the show. We will have some interviews as well with some of the providers that will be part of the team on the ground in Jamaica. So you'll get to meet some of the restaurateurs and as well as activity groups that will be sharing the experience with us and guiding us through the Jamaican culture. And so we look forward to so much more details as we journey to October. So thank you again, sorry. Thank you again for joining me and have an amazing evening. And thank you, everyone.
Oh,
So,
last but not least, also very excited to actually, I forgot to say, very excited to meet you in person because I've been communicating with you so much. So to thank Oshikuku Mission Private School and Oshikuku Circuit for allowing me to be on this platform. I'm so grateful. And I always use marketing opportunities. If you want your kids to be educated by me, our admissions are open. Thank you so much.
absolutely. Yes, absolutely. And we're looking forward to future endeavors that you have as you spin off and learn more about ways that you can teach English as your core subject to more students. We're looking forward to seeing your journey, and we will be following you even beyond this trip, but following your career and everything else as you continue to grow and continue to create impact and advocate for the things that you are passionate about. So we look forward to kind of building this journey with you and as well as continuing to stay in touch with you beyond the revitalized retreat and everything else. So again, thank you for your service to our youth and we will be in touch with you soon again. You can definitely, that you know how to reach me. So we will be in touch. But thank you. This conversation was very great. I had a good time talking with you, and I hope that our audience appreciated hearing from you and learning more about who you are and your heart for education. Thank you.
So much for having me.
So there you have it, everyone. We have culminated and we are back in full effect. As I mentioned, we will be back next week, Wednesday, with another episode. And this time we will be taking it to Cameroon. And so we have our Cameroonian teacher and as well as our ambassador from Cameroon joining us next week on our next episode. And so that will be on Wednesday, the 19th of July at 7 p.m. European time, 1 p.m. In Eastern Standard Time. Check your dates, secure the time so that you can be with us live on our next episode. I would love to say a special thank you to our ambassador that is from Namibia, who joined us in helping us and identify our first set of teachers from Namibia that, of course, became a delegation that is joining us on this retreat from Namibia. Here's a little snippet, and thank you to Miss Joanne Cleote. We would like to say a special thank you to Revitalized Namibia Ambassador and Gen Namibia MD, Ms. Johanna Cloet. Thank you for helping us to identify the amazing teachers from Namibia who are doing exceptional work within the education systems. We are thankful for your assistance in helping us to not only identify these teachers, but also to partner with us to make it possible to have them join us for Revitalized 2023. We are thankful to all your partners in Namibia for also joining forces with you and contributing to this initiative. Thank you all in advance for your service. If you need more information about how to contribute, donate, or just ask a question about Revitalize, you can reach out to us via email. Our email address is emailus@revitalizestar.com. Further details are also available on our website at revitalizestar.com. You can also schedule a meeting with me, Crystal Legrand, if you have any in-depth information that you would like to know that you could not find on our website, and my Calendly link is in the description. For donations, head over to bit.ly/revitalized donations, or you can go to our website. At the top right-hand corner, there is a donation button ready and waiting for your contribution. We invite you to stay up to date as well and follow us at Revitalized Star on all our social media platforms. These include TikTok, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. Follow us behind the scenes as we journey towards July the 15th to the 20th, where teachers will be joining us from across the globe to experience Revitalized 2023. Thank you for watching, and join us tomorrow for our